is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Kibo podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you're doing all well out there during these times of, Corona and the quarantine. In the meantime, we're in here, and we have our special guest today with us, which is Ronan Liedmeier, 23-year-old CMO at Kibo right now. Thank you so much for taking your time and being here. And I want to welcome you to the podcast, man.
All right, thanks for having me.
How are you doing on this fine day?
I'm doing great. I'm still currently held up in Frankfurt at my parents' place, but finally, I think after 3.5 months, I'm returning back to Amsterdam tomorrow.
Oh, really?
So, really looking forward.
That's where the office is, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Robin is already there. Ramses is soon going to join us, and we're excited to get back to work. Also in physical proximity to each other. Not always just Zoom calls all day,
I can imagine that is far easier.
Yeah, definitely.
No, but so today we're here on a nice Wednesday afternoon. It's 2 p.m. right now. Sun is shining outside. It's going to be 30 degrees Celsius, man. How's your day been thus far?
Yeah, I mean, you know how it is. It's been a lot of Zoom calls up here, getting a little bit toasty, but yeah, I'm looking forward to actually being able to spend some time outside again. But so far, I think that these last couple of weeks have just been, a lot of time has been spent inside, more than...
Damn, we have some network connection issues right now. I don't know if it's me or... Anyways, again, you were stuck when you were saying, I think, what a grind it was the last few weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So, the last couple of weeks have just been, a lot of Zoom meetings, basically sitting at my desk from 9 to 9 every single day, talking to people. I guess I wasn't able to make that good of a use of the good weather outside, but hopefully that can change a little bit in the coming days.
But I can imagine that is the typical life of an entrepreneur, huh?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. I mean, you're now an entrepreneur, but from your CV, it seems like it's not the thing that you always wanted to be ever since you were growing up. Is that correct?
To be completely honest with you, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I was growing up. I think the most concrete plan I had growing up was to become a professional football player, just like, 70% of was out there. I think this path of entrepreneurship only really started coming together at the age of 18 or 19 or something like that, when I did my first internship in a startup, actually. But even then, everything was unclear for me until I started my own company. And then, I started falling in love with the process rather than actually, just getting money or whatever. So that's usually the motivation for most people, I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to make some quick cash, and then I want to sit back in the Bahamas and just enjoy life. So for me, it was really a journey of, falling in love with the process of being an entrepreneur, of, actually, liking the work that I'm doing, and just working for the sake of working, I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So you said you had that internship at the startup when you were 18, 19 years old. Can you talk about, so before that your plan was to become a professional football player, right? Can you talk a little bit about that process, that switch that happened? Was it after the internship, during the internship? What kind of company, what kind of startup was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think this path of a professional footballer, at some point you just realize that you just don't have what it takes to perform at the very highest level, Or in my case, it was I knew that I would be able to play at a certain level to make a good living, but that would only be for the time being whilst I was actually playing, and then afterwards I would be left with absolutely nothing. Like it is, with most professional sports professions, where like most people only make enough money to sustain themselves during their actual career, and then afterwards, they're left there. They only have their high school diploma if they're lucky, and they have to start a new life basically.
Yeah.
And so that was basically the moment I was told, you can make it, but you're never going to make it to the point where you're going to be able to retire with the money that you make during your career. That was the moment I realized, okay, this is not going to happen. And then, as fate will have it, I think 2 months later, I tore my anterior cruciate ligament.
Your ACL, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. By that point, it was completely done anyway. And then I was confronted with the harsh reality of, okay, I need to I need to do something in my life, and I absolutely knew what to do. So I talked to my father a little bit, because he's quite well connected in Munich, in terms of business contacts, and he said, why don't you try an internship at a startup or something? I know a couple of cool people. And then he connected me with Thomas Lang, who's the former vice president of marketing of Disney, has 17 companies which he's invested into right now. And he was a co-founder of a startup there in Munich called Happify. And Happify was a marketing system.
I want to interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
Because the audio is really robot-y like. And
okay.
I was trying to follow it, but it cut off right where you were talking about the startups that Thomas Lang was working with, and what was so great about them. And like before I had you repeat everything, I wanted to stop you and just because now it seemed to be like super nice again.
Okay, so you can hear me clearly again?
Yeah. Now I don't know what it is, what kind of tech black magic is going on here, but now sorry, but you may continue now.
Right. So as I was saying, I started working for one of Thomas's startups, and the amazing thing about it is, even though my responsibilities were very limited at the beginning, I was still able to voice my opinion. I was able to come up with ideas, whilst, for example, at a multinational corporation, if I were to come up to, the CMO and be like, hey, I have this marketing strategy, which I think could work out great. Are you willing to listen to it? Chances are that, maybe if I'm very lucky, I'll get an appointment with him or her like 2 weeks later, something like that, And in the startup, it was an open door policy. I could come in any time, voice my thoughts and opinions, and sometimes they would even listen to it and follow through on what I'm saying. And I think that was the moment where I realized, wow, having a bit of responsibility and being able to influence the way in which a company works and in which where a company is going, that is awesome, because you can directly see whatever you do has a direct outcome to it, Whilst at a multinational corporation, if you if you perform really, really well, then you might bring from a performance level of 95% to 95.1%, something like that. At a startup, you can directly see this huge learning curve, this huge impact in what you're doing. And that was the first time I realized, okay, startups are really something that I could see myself getting into in the future.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. And then was it more of a feeling like, hey, I want to work within this company environment, or was it the feeling that, hey, I want to start a company like this?
Well, to be honest, right after my internship, I was very confused still on what to do. I just knew I liked the culture, but I think I didn't really have the confidence that I have now in myself, and being able to build up my own company, basically. So it was the moment I think I realized I really like this, this sector. I really like startups. I like the culture. I like the way they work. I like the hierarchies and everything. But at the time, I didn't have this thought yet, oh, you could actually do it yourself. That came much later, actually.
Okay. Yeah, and then so you you studied business, right? So let's say 18, 19, you did this internship. So I assume that is post high school, like after your graduation, right? But was it already the first year of your studies, or did you have a gap year where you did those internships?
Well, actually, it was, I think, 2 or 3 months into my studies when this internship offer came about, and then I decided to at the time I actually decided to leave the university, but then only later, decided to come back and finish my studies.
Oh, okay. So you took a break within your studies to do this internship.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, interesting. And then, because your first entrepreneurial experience wouldn't come along until your third year, was it? When you founded Student Up together with Robin and Ramses?
No, actually, it was before that. It was in my second year. I I had a company together with Edosia. And at the time, we were building a decentralized solution to lost and found items with a reward-based system. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially what we were doing was to develop a system how people could find their lost items on a worldwide scale using technology, and giving the people who found it a direct incentive to those products back. So there, Eddie came up with the early second year, something like that. And then I met him on a night out, and I talked to him a little bit about my experiences with the previous startup. And I obviously I also saw the process that they were going through, like the fundraising process, etc. And I said, if you ever need any help on how to do it, then let me know. And as a matter of fact, then he came to me a couple of days later, and he was just like, "Yeah, what is the company?" So I started working together with him, mainly on trying to raise investment for the company. But yeah, we hit a couple of major roadblocks along the way, and unfortunately, we didn't make the progress that we wanted to in the time that was specified. And and actually, I was still working on the project when the idea came about to start something together with Robin. And then at that point, I was faced with making the decision, and decided to start something with Robin. And then the project just kind of right now. It's on hold still, but my whole focus is with the current startup that I have right now.
Okay. The audio keeps being very annoying. It's weird because like whenever I say, hey, the audio is annoying, and then you're like, oh, okay, I see. It's super clear. Okay, let's try this. Okay, that's cool. So you're pursuing this idea with your pal Eddie. How long did that last? Like, what is the time frame here?
I think in total we were working on it for about 9 to 10 months, something around that.
Okay, so quite long.
Quite long, but I do have to say it wasn't the most efficient use of time. It was like we both did it very unstructured and next door studies, and right. It was still very much at the beginning of both our entrepreneurial journeys. So we were not as organized as one should be. But the company did, however, take us to Web Summit in Lisbon. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to go at the time because I was ill, but it was a pretty cool experience also to see and to get a bunch of different contacts from it. So yeah, that was very nice. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So now the question that would arise is, would you say that it would have gone differently if you would have done it out like after university? If you didn't have the studies next to it, do you think that was this deciding factor or not?
I think the deciding factor in this case was experience, because I think if he would have come to me with the idea now and I didn't have Kibo right now, then I think we would have we would have pulled it off a lot different and in a much more structured way. And I think it could have definitely been a lot more successful than it was. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then, so you move on in your entrepreneurial journey then to work on a project with Robin, right? Which would be then student up. When was that then? Is that still second year? Is that already third year of your studies?
That was around the third year, because I think in the beginning of my third year, I fell kind of into a bit of a hole, so to say. So I really because also the other project was dragging on and there wasn't really anything viable coming out of it. I was just studying for the sake of studying, just getting that piece of paper, which I literally haven't even looked at since I've gotten it. So. I was a bit down in dumps because I just didn't really have a purpose anymore, And then at some point I just had this moment. I was watching a talk given by Stephen Bartlett, the CEO of the Social Chain Group, and then it just he said this one sentence. I think it was something about not going to a corporate after studying, but doing really something that you love doing and falling in love with the process and falling in love with work itself, so that it doesn't feel like you're actually working a single day of your life. And that just sparked something in me, because I was just like, yeah, right now the path that I'm going on, I'm going to end up at some big corporate, and I'm just going to be part of an engine, and I'm never going to be happy there. And so I took a picture of it, and I know we said we weren't going to cuss in this podcast, but it literally said, "Yo, Robin, doing a master's, getting a corporate job after our studies. Let's get restaurant jobs and start a business together."
Right.
So it was really like a spur of the moment decision. Didn't think about the consequences whatsoever, all the implications, and then he immediately texted back, saying, "Oh, hey, I still have this problem that I identified, and started working on a solution. I'll send you everything I have." And then within 2 days, we wrote a business plan together. By the way, don't write a business plan. Do a business canvas, because business plans are the biggest waste of time ever.
Okay.
I think then 2 days later we had a business plan ready. We started working on a solution. We started searching for people to join the team, and then everything went very quickly, but quicker than it should have. I'll put it that way, because we didn't validate all of our assumptions to the point where we were sure that there was a market for our product.
Okay, very interesting. A lot to unpack there. So it was just kind of the spur of moment. Didn't really think about it. So you just were looking for any kind of startup outlet to escape the uni life.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it was more of like a moment of realization of, what am I doing here? It's not, I'm only really conforming to what society is telling me to do, and I'm in no way doing what I actually wanted to do.
Is that also something because you have a pretty heavy marketing background, right? Coming up, is that something that you were that you felt compelled to do because it was like the easiest way to get a good paying job, or what's the story behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you look at our entire system, if you look at anything really, to get a good job, to make a decent living, the standard way is you go to university, you get a bachelor degree. With that bachelor degree, you can get some decent first entry level jobs. Then to get to get to the higher pay level, you have to do a master's, and then you'll be stamped off as a qualified employee. But then you also still need 5 years of experience to get to the next stage. And I think like that system, it works for a lot of people, but there's also a lot of people that doesn't work for. So as an example, I was recently in contact with an entrepreneur, Mats Farholt. He's quite successful, and whenever he hires people for his company, he talks about these whispering talents. So you have like the obvious talents, the people who graduated with a perfect GPA from Harvard, who then worked at KPMG for 2 to 3 years and, broke through all the record ceilings and everything. But then you also have the people who just simply whose skill set just simply doesn't conform to the way we are being tested,
Right.
and the way society is dictating our progress essentially. And I would kind of I would classify myself as one of those, because I don't I was never able to thrive on the university, simply also because I didn't care about getting good grades. I cared about learning. And for me, learning the 7 steps of a marketing strategy off by heart, for me, that's not learning. For me, that's simply, I can look up the 7 steps within seconds on Google, but actually doing it, actually executing it, and, knowing what each of those 7 steps do, that's something completely different. And that is something which I find at university is lacking in most courses or in most institutions, that they try to make it as real world as possible, but then it's still, you're still only working with theoretical data, even right. When it's real life cases for companies, you have 1,000 different student groups submitting their ideas to Coca-Cola, of which 2 or 3 get selected, where one gets a presenter at the headquarters, and then most likely they will never even implement those decisions. So that for me is just simply that's not real life experience. That's working in a theoretical world with theoretical numbers and theoretical outcomes.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point, because I think nowadays with the Zuckerbergs and the Bill Gates of the world, people start to question the values that universities bring, right? In comparison to just going out there and doing it yourself. But as you said, there's a lot of different personalities on this planet, right? And so I want to talk to you about, what do you think, what kind of value university brought to you as a person, right? And also, if you would think that, if you would have the mindset of, okay, I want to start a business, which you had in the 3rd year already, which you then eventually had in the 3rd year, if you would have that, for example, in your 1st year already, do you think it would have been a smart plan for you to, drop out and pursue, your passion, the entrepreneurship?
It's a difficult question, to be honest, because my mind is obviously telling me, yes, if I could have stopped this process anytime sooner, I would have. But at the same time, you have to look at the other implications. If I would have failed after 1 or 2 years, dropping out of university and just simply pursuing what I want to do, and then I fail after 2 years, then yes, I have 2 years of experience, which is great, which in my opinion is still more valuable than than just simply having a degree. But many employers don't share that opinion. Many employers, they look at, what have you achieved in terms of, do you have a degree? Do you have anything on paper that can prove to me that you can do stuff, And so for me, it was a bit of a risk mitigation strategy as well, to just simply complete the degree. And, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do so. But if you look over here in Europe, in general, in the Netherlands, for example, we pay 2,000 euros for an entire year of tuition. In Germany, it's free even. So there, the kind of trade-off that you're making is in terms of time and in terms of 2,000 euros. So what, you're making the trade-off, okay, in 3 years of studying, and if I was working in those 3 years, I could make this much money and get this much experience, versus if I'm studying for 3 years, I'm paying 2,000 euros and I'm spending my time doing this and learning this, In the US, you pay 50 to 60K per year of university. Yep. There, the trade-off to me becomes unreasonable at some point, because of course you have the top graduates from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, and the likes, who come from wealthy backgrounds or go on a full ride scholarship, And, getting the stamp of approval from those universities is really, it's a big game changer. But to someone who will then be indebted by, 500K on average by the end of their studies, and, them having to make the same trade-off that I have to make here in Europe, like time, getting, getting your own experiences whilst trying to start something, and perhaps even learning more than you would learn at university, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting for people who come up and have the thoughts of doing something outside of university, right? To hear perspectives of people who dropped out, but also people who finished university, and see what their thoughts are, so they can make an educated decision. So, and that's what we're all about here at Kibo, right? so no, definitely, thank you for sharing. I want to talk about the actual milestone of starting your business, right? So you do it in your last year of your bachelor, right? Mm-hmm. Did your parents know that you did that next to your studies?
I think they found out like a month or two afterwards, because like the first month or two was just kind of, yeah, it was like a little side passion project, which I didn't think was worth mentioning. But then after a month or two, it became more concrete. We got Thomas as an advisor on board, which was a huge win for us. Someone of that stature and that much experience. And then I told them, and they were actually really, really excited about it, because really? They could see, because they could see that I was like, I started changing in the way I was behaving, before the only thing which excited me was a party on the weekend and a football game on a Sunday. And then suddenly I would get excited about certain trends, even in technology and the like. So like the dinner conversations really got a very different tone as well. So they were very excited about it. Yeah.
Okay. And what about the rest of your kind of environment? Your friends, maybe other parts of your family. I don't know if you had any relationships at the time. How was it? Was it overall very supportive of your your new career?
I would say overall it was a more supportive environment, but that was also because of the type of people I surrounded myself with. Like it was a supportive environment to the extent that they said like, oh yeah, that's cool what you're doing, but I don't think I had many people who really understood the the depth into like basically what it really meant, what I was about to start doing. And I didn't even know either. I had no idea that this was going to take me into years and years of this kind of work. It was just a spur of the moment decision at the time. But I do also have to say that even though my friends and my very close environment was very supportive, many other people were just saying like, what, you're not going to get a job after university. Like, how are you going to make money? And that was the first thing that was on their mind. Like, how are you going to make money? And yes, that's a very, very important factor, because without money we can't live. But honestly, I would rather make very little money my entire life and enjoy what I'm doing, rather than making a lot of money but absolutely hating my job. And like your job makes up, I think, if you put every single hour after each other, your job makes up more than 12 years of your life. So for more than 12 years, 24/7, 365 days a year, you are working. And if that job that isn't something that you're excited about, something that you like doing, then what are you doing with your life?
Right.
And it is a bit of a luxury to be able to to think about this, because many are in the situation where they can't think about it and they just have to do whatever comes their way. But if you're in the position that you're able to sit back and think, like, what can I do to not just improve my life outcome in terms of financial success, but also in terms of personal fulfillment, then do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a truly valuable thought right there. One more that I want to touch upon is you were talking about falling in love with the process, right? Of all the work that goes into creating, your own company. I assume that you are falling in love now with the process. I think when people are searching for that love, the passion, so to say, they always it's always looked upon as this perfect state, right? Where everything you do is fun and you like it. And I want to ask you if you have moments where moments of doubts, moments where you're like, man, is this like is this like the life that how I imagine it to be? Those kind of moments, or if everything is the valley of suns and roses, like they say, when you follow your passion.
Anyone who tells you that they never have doubts about what they're doing is lying, because there is going to be a moment in your life there are going to be so many moments in your life where you sit back and you think, am I really doing the best thing right now for me? And I of course I have that, like I have many moments where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to sleep. I just want to get more financial stability, etc., etc. But then what you have to do is you have to look at it in the long term. It's not about the individual moments. It's about the general feeling what you're doing is giving to you. So, for me, of course, there will be days where I'd be thinking, okay, I don't want to get up and work today. But the number of days where I get up and I'm excited to get to my computer and I forget to have breakfast because I want to work on something so badly, those days outweigh the other days by a lot, by a landslide,
Right.
By a landslide, by a lot.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
It makes sense. But I think it's really like, like when a person says they have found their true passion, then it's about it's about a general trajectory. It's not about a straight line, because passion also evolves. It depends on what kind of stage of life you're in. The things that are important to us right now as early 20-year-olds are going to be very different to what's going to be important to us early 30s.
Right.
And that's why it's a very dynamic thing, passion and falling in love with the process, because also the process changes. Right now I'm managing a team of 3 to 4 marketing interns, and every single one of my decisions is very free, and only really I only really have to consult with 2 or 3 people in the team to make that decision. But if I imagine, okay, in 5 years from now, where do we want to be? We want to have hundreds of employees across the world, and have a really big multinational corporation come out of it, essentially. Then those responsibilities change, and the way I think about everything changes. Yeah. So it's really about it's about a trajectory. It's not about a straight line.
Right. Yeah, that's very true, and I think a lot of people have to consider that, because I think a lot of people find what they love, but they they don't see it as such. Because they don't, in the moment, right, when you're down at this particular day, or you had like an off week or something, it's hard to think about all the nice days that they were, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have that mindset.
And to add to this, social media paints this picture of having a perfect job, having the perfect relationship, having the perfect house, having the perfect friends, but what's truly behind all of that is what people don't see. when you have these motivational videos by entrepreneurs who are driving Ferraris and living in $5 million penthouses, like no one understands what is below that, and on top of that, people are acting as if as if they're living their perfect life, but then as soon as the camera shuts off, we don't know what they're doing, and most of them are not doing what they say they're doing in the videos. And I think that's a very, very important thing to understand, is that it's not about living the perfect life which the outside perceives as a perfect life, but it's about, are you happy with what you're doing in a general term? Not every single day, but if I ask you in a year from now, did you have a good year? Did you like what you did this year? And you answer yes, then you're doing the right thing.
Definitely, yeah. 100% agreement. I think that's so important now, especially with social media, as you said. And talking of social media, it actually brings me to the next topic that I really wanted to talk about with you, which is common misconceptions or perceptions about being an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. So that people who watch this can get, a better understanding on how it actually is. So I'm going to say, a few statements, and then I'll just have you, say your thoughts on it, whether it's rather correct, rather not correct. And yeah.
Got it.
All right. Number one is embracing failure is part of the journey.
I couldn't agree more. Failing for me is 100% part of the process. And if you don't fail, it tells me that you didn't try hard enough at something, If you don't fail, it means you didn't push your boundaries. You didn't try something outside of your comfort zone. It means that you tried to stay safe, and it means that you didn't take any risks. And I can tell you that every single successful entrepreneur out there has encountered failures in their life, and it is part of, like, especially in the Silicon Valley Valley atmosphere, failure is really, it's embraced. Failure is almost glorified. People really love talking about their failures over there. They love talking about their mistakes. Whilst, in Europe, oftentimes what you hear is like failure. It's like, oh God, that's so negative. Like, oh my God, No, failure is something good because it means that you can learn from it. And, I've failed so many times now with different campaigns that I ran with companies even, and I'm still not at the end of the process, like I'm still going to fail. But I embrace the fact that I'm still going to fail, because it means that I can learn from it and I can do better the next time.
Right. How do you then, let's say you want to be an entrepreneur, right? And you started your first business and you really wanted to do well, right? So you obviously you don't want to risk everything, right? Because you wanted to succeed. On the other hand, you also almost want to fail as a part of the journey, right? How do you make this balance of risking it all, because if I fail, it's also fine, and playing it safe, so because if you so the odds aren't too big that you'll actually not succeed.
Right. Well, I mean, there I should also perhaps be a bit more clear that I don't set out to fail. Every single time I do something, I believe it's going to work. So make sure to do your research right, but set yourself up in a way that you can iterate very, very quickly. Most of the startups that succeed are the ones that are very agile, the ones that can quickly take a negative situation and spin something positive out of it. The ones that don't cling on to their business models for too long while seeing that it's not going to work, but the ones who are willing to sit back and say, okay, we can fundamentally change everything. Is it worth changing? And that's called doing a pivot. And we've done, I think, 2 or 3 pivots in our time.
Oh.
So it is important to that if you if you set out to do something, that you believe it's going to work. Because
Right.
if you don't believe it's going to work, and you're just saying like, oh yeah, there's like a 1 in a million chance that people will actually buy this product or use this service, then you're not like you're not doing business, and you're just playing the lottery. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So my like they're basically my standpoint is don't play the lottery, believe in what you're doing. But if you believe in what you're doing and you still fail, then you challenge those beliefs, and that's the moment in which you start to grow. Because if you already start out with the mentality of like, yeah, I'm not sure about this, then all you're going to be doing is confirming some of the beliefs that or some of the doubts that you had. Whilst if you believe in something and then it turns out that it's wrong, then you're challenging fundamental thought processes of yours. And I believe that's like that moment when you step outside of your comfort zone, that's where growth happens.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So then the next perception or common saying about entrepreneurs is if you start a startup nowadays, right, in the market that we have now, you have to focus on a niche to excel.
Yes, it's a like in a general sense, I would say yes, because if you're focusing on a niche, that means that you're going to have fewer competitors. And nowadays, the market, especially in the digital space, is very, very crowded. It's a red ocean. So finding like that little blue ocean in between in between all the things that are out there, and you have a product and there's a market for that product, then you are much more likely to succeed than, for example, if I was to build another influencer platform right now. That being said, it always depends on execution. Like I think I would advise starting entrepreneurs to really look for that niche, to look for that blue ocean. However, that being said, very experienced entrepreneurs, they have the capability and the resources to also enter certain red ocean markets. I mean, if you look at TikTok, for example, who would have predicted 2 years ago that someone would be able to compete with Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and the likes? Not just compete in general, but to be able to compete at such a scale and such a speed.
Yep.
Of course, there were many people saying that like these short content platforms, they were going to be on the rise, and we saw the same thing with Vine. Like Vine was a very popular platform. It just didn't have a very good business execution behind it. So it was clear that something like this was going to come again, but to be able to pull it off at such a speed and such a scale, that is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
So that's why I think my answer for that would be for starting entrepreneurs, focus on a niche. For experienced entrepreneurs, you have a bit more options out there.
Right.
But of course, this is just my opinion. This is not.
No, for sure. Yeah. That's why I'm asking you, right? Can you elaborate a bit more on how to identify or what makes an ocean blue for those non-business people?
Right. So what makes an ocean blue is that there are few or no existing solutions to a problem, right? And I think that's also where most people go wrong, is that they just simply look for that blue ocean. They just simply try to develop a product straight away, and they're not even sure that there is a product. That they're not even sure that there is an ocean out there. So that's for example, that's what we did with Student Up. We had this kind of idea, and we had this like small problem validation because we knew some people who had this problem, but really it wasn't an ocean. It was a little pond in my backyard. It was not. It was the market wasn't big enough for it. And that I think that is the most fundamental thing that you have to do when you set out to start a business, is identify a problem and make sure that problem is so severe that there is a market for it. If you find a solution, people are going to use your product. So yeah, I'd say finding the best way to find to find a good problem is to simply do different things. Work at companies, work at startups, do your own little freelance projects, and you will identify areas and sectors where you think that the market isn't developed enough, and then you can take that and you can validate it with more people to make sure that you're not the only one facing that problem, and that's how you can then get to your niche, basically.
No. Okay. All right. All right. So then the next perception that I have for you, or the next statement that I have for you, is you have to be a domain expert before starting your startup.
No, I don't agree with that.
No.
It's you have a lot of domain experts, especially in the technology technology sectors, who will never build a good company because they simply don't have they might have the technology, they might have the product, but if you don't know how to get that product to your end users, then what are you building? You're just building something nice for show. And I would say you can always get more domain knowledge if you have a good idea, and you demonstrate it, or you're able to demonstrate that you can pull it off. If you have the right people on board, then you can hire those people. So, right. For example, for Kibo, none of us are career coaches, but why do we need a career coach if we can simply use a part of our investment to hire career coaches to get the industry knowledge, to get all the expert knowledge that we need, and simply feed it into our algorithms. So, of course, for tech startups, if you don't have a tech person on board, it becomes significantly more difficult, and investors usually require a founding team to be at least half to 2/3 technical. Right. So that makes things a bit more difficult at times, but I'm still a strong believer in the fact that if you have what it takes to manage people and manage money properly, then you don't have to be a domain expert in something to make it work. It's all about the execution.
I think that's a big motivation booster for you guys out there who have an idea, but you're not proficient in that idea. Take Ronan and Kibo as an example. You can definitely work around that if your idea is great. The last statement that I have for you is you have to be a risk taker.
Yes. Yes. I mean, what you're doing when you're starting a company, most of the time you're going to be leaving behind a lot of things. One of these is a stable income. Even if you decide to work on the side, then what you're leaving out is personal relationships, free time. There's always going to be a huge trade-off if you start your own company, and either way, it's going to be a risk. Whether you actually follow through with that risk, that you have to make dependent on your situation. So, let's say you're in the last year of your studies, right? You have a great idea. You've validated your assumptions. You know that the product has a market, right? But in order for you to really focus on this and push through with it, you have to quit your studies. Is that worth it? It's and then on both sides, it's a risk giving up your studies. At the same time, it's a risk going through with your studies. And that's what makes this entire process a little bit complicated, because people only see the risk of actually doing it, and then giving up the normal way that society dictates to you. But at the same time, it's a risk not doing it. If you catch what I'm saying.
I get what you mean.
I would argue that from my personal standpoint, it is a bigger risk not giving it up if you know that everything is going to work. But to many people, it's going to be a bigger risk of giving it up.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting perspective. Yeah.
So that's why it's very difficult to say. Like, yeah, I definitely think you have to be a risk taker because, like I said, if you don't try to get outside of your comfort zone, then you're not going to grow. So like there are certain risks that you have to take, especially also in the business context. That's why my initial answer was, yes, you have to be a risk taker. But then if you look at the fundamental part of, what is a risk, then it becomes very blurry.
Yeah. Yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I've never thought about it. In that sense. Yeah. I think it's a very good question to ask yourself. Because a lot of times you kind of know internally, right, what you want to do, but society and those standards, tell you a different story, whether you should start, for example, your company or not, or pursue whatever you want to pursue. So then asking yourself those types of questions like, hey, which one is the bigger risk for me, right, as a person? I think that's a good question. Like, it's kind of the sense of what would I regret more, right?
So, like if you asked Mark Zuckerberg, for example, what was the risk for him? The risk that he took was simply not having his degree. But for him, the biggest risk was to stay at university.
Yeah, and miss out on everything that he set out to achieve.
Exactly. So, like there, obviously it becomes a little bit inverted in terms of like you have to be a risk taker, because for his case, you could argue that he took the path of the lowest risk.
Right.
But to the outside, it'll always be the bigger risk of starting your own thing,
Yeah. I love that. I really like that mindset. So now you've taken the choice that you deemed to be wise back then and became an entrepreneur, and you went through Student Up, which didn't work, and now you guys are at Kibo, right? Maybe for people who don't know what Kibo is, maybe you can just say a few words and elaborate on what the switch was between Student Up and Kibo, maybe what Student Up was, how it turned to be Kibo now.
So Student Up was a social media for entrepreneurial minded students, and with Student Up, essentially what we try to do is bring the Silicon Valley spirit and the ability to find the right co-founders, mentors and investors, and bring that online on an app to Europe. So you could kind of see it as a mix between AngelList, Facebook, and Tinder, but then everything for startup related issues.
Okay.
That was our idea. It was too many features. It was too complicated. And we didn't have a way to engage our users on a daily basis because we didn't have enough users, which for social media is a problem. So that being said, we still had over 400 initial beta users who opened the app for the first time, took a little look around, and then never came back. These users had to go through quite a process to download the app because it was only available on TestFlight and the test version on Google Play. So they had to basically install another app to be able to install the test version of our app, an unproven, unstable version, which is quite some dedication. So we set our users down and we asked them, so what was it that brought you to the app? Like not like throwing out all of our assumptions. What was it that brought you to the app? And their answer, well, startups, we thought we'd be able to find startup jobs here because they're very flexible. Okay. You want startup jobs because they're flexible. Why do you want those startup jobs? Because they're flexible. Because I don't know what to do after graduating. And I feel like that a startup job can help me explore different paths and help me get more clearance about what is it that I want to do. Right. So the actual problem was that all of our users simply didn't have a clue what to do after graduating. So we took that and we started continuing to validate that assumption, and we looked around. We did primary and secondary research, and it actually showed that out of all the people we interviewed, more than 80% faced career anxiety in the past 2 years.
Really?
So more than 80% at some point during the last 2 years sat themselves down in their room, started freaking out because they had no idea what to do after graduating.
Yeah.
And that is not just the people that we interviewed, it's everyone. Like even one of our advisors, Stephen McCauley, he was at Stanford in one of those what they call hacker houses, where there were different students together, and he was there as a visiting researcher. And even he asked around, what are you planning to do after graduating? And he had a bunch of people come to him saying, like, how did you get to where you want to be? And even the brightest minds of the US at Stanford, and perhaps even of the world, even they have that problem of not knowing what to do after graduating.
Yeah.
And if you look at what career counselors face on a daily basis, on average, one career counselor or one career coach at a university is responsible for 441 students. And then most of the time, they have 15-30 minute meetings, they have some workshops here and there, but then other than that, there is no support. Because they simply don't have the resources to. They're not able to give continuous one-on-one support to these students.
Yeah.
And we also realized that external help of career coaches, I did it myself when I was 18, when I was completely lost. I paid 1,500 euros for 1 day of career coaching.
Really?
It's an insane amount of money, and I would never pay it again.
Did it not help?
It did help. It did help a little bit, but I only got some basic tool sets, like it was 1 day of like personality tests and, like saying like, okay, yeah, do this and this and this, and then you can start figuring it out yourself. But then, like they said, like, yeah, keep me up to date with what's happening. Yeah, of course, I'm going to keep you up to date with what's happening. No, like most people, especially Generation Z, we don't like talking to strangers about our problems and our fears, And that's another interesting thing that we found in our research, that in fact, Gen Z prefers disclosing their problems and fears to a machine rather than a stranger. Like that's the kind of generation we live in,
Where the machine doesn't judge you, I suppose.
The machine doesn't judge me, and that's what was quite remarkable, and that's what led us to believe that there is a technological solution out there, which can help with this problem, which can help people with the fact that they don't know what to do after graduating.
Right.
And all of that kind of started leading us to the development of Kibo, which is essentially a digital career coaching assistant, which helps students and guides them towards their ideal career with the help of artificial intelligence, as well as little bite-sized exercises and tools. And we kind of based that off a lot of the different edtech apps that are out there nowadays. If you look at Duolingo, I have met many people who are, spending 3 to 4 hours a day on Duolingo just simply because they want to stay in that platinum league and they want to earn that badge, and they are competing against each other,
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what many people miss, and especially larger institutions, is that learning can be fun. There can be a competitive aspect to learning, and that's exactly what our generation is looking for. We don't want 20 articles that we have to read and summarize and then do a test. No, we want instant rewards. We want we want a little XP badge that pops up when we completed a 5-minute CV checker course or whatever. So that's kind of what we based it all off of, and all of this is now starting to come together. So we're in talks with different universities about getting a first pilot together with them. We already released our app to individual users and are gathering feedback from them and just iterating over and over and over again. And that's essentially where Kibo is heading right now. And in 10 years, we want Kibo to be the all-in-one career coaching assistant, and really guide people throughout their life and make sure that the job satisfaction rates shoot up. That's our end goal.
Wow. I really hope you succeed with those, because yeah, those are true problems of people in general and also our generations. And yeah, but I mean, I'm doing my master's right now, so I'm in university, so I can confirm that yeah, it would be nice to have that gamification. I think making learning fun is a concept that barely anybody thinks about when they think about university. No, but so if we go back to where you are in life right now, right, in your career. Um, I mean, how long was it ago that you started the first little entrepreneurship idea with your pal Eddie? Second year of university, that makes it now.
I was 19 or 20, something like that.
Right, so that's like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how would you say your your expectations of being an entrepreneur and doing stuff by yourself, what did change, what changed, like in your, what do you know now more than you did back then, both pros and cons?
So I think in the beginning, like in the very beginning, the first 2 or 3 months, I expected by now I would already be a millionaire. And like that was kind of the the very flawed assumption I had, that like everything was going to work out immediately and I was going to get rich while doing so,
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, that was my motivation. What changed over the past 3 or 4 years is that, exactly like I said, I stopped glorifying entrepreneurship. I stopped glorifying startups for the end product at the very, very end of the road, what can happen. And I started looking more at the process itself and what I can personally gain from the process. Um, and I think that was like that moment, that switch, that was a crucial moment for me, so to say.
Right.
And that only happened, I think, about a year or a year and a half ago.
Mm.
So until then, I was pulling through, and there's a lot of little exciting things, which keep you going, which keep you, yeah. It's almost like a new relationship, kind of, like you feel very infatuated, and everything is exciting, and everything is new, and like that was what kept me going at that time. Like we went to networking events and we met with CEOs of important companies, and I was invited to Google summits and got the free Google beer and the food and everything. And it was like, whoa, this is awesome, this is cool. Like I would never do this as like an intern of some company. um, so that's what kept me going in the beginning. And then at some point, it was that moment where I was like, okay, I'm actually learning so much more in this process than I was learning at university, and I'm enjoying learning. Right now, I basically I try to find new courses on Coursera and Udemy every single day of skill sets that I can learn, and I love doing it. And
Yeah.
that is also part of that process, and that is the moment when kind of my relationship with startups went from infatuation to love.
Right. Yeah.
That's when I realized that like not every single day has to be perfect, and not every single day has to be amazing, and something new and exciting has to happen. But on a general sense, I'm content with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think that was for me the most important part of this journey. The moment where I stopped glorifying entrepreneurship and startups, and the moment I actually realized what's behind it, the work that's behind it, and liking that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Damn. What a journey, right?
It's been a hell of a journey, and
Yeah. It's not
it's a
even.
far road ahead.
Yeah, but it's not even that long of a journey yet if you think about it in like a
Yeah.
lifetime's perspective. It's really
been
good.
4 to 5 years, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is? I mean, you said back in the days, you wanted to be a millionaire by now. What would you say is your long-term goal now as being an entrepreneur?
I think so first of all, obviously with Kibo, we want to make a change. We want to leave behind an imprint on the world and hopefully the education system in some sort of way. And I essentially I want to make sure that no one feels like I felt during my time at university. This kind of purposeless feeling, like not knowing what to do. And it's going to be hard to completely eradicate that feeling, but to have something there that people can rely on and where people know that they can always get help from it, like you can see it also with mental health. You have a lot of apps like Headspace and Calm and Wobot and the likes,
Yeah.
where people who have been facing, mental difficulties and problems, they have something they can fall back onto. Whenever a therapist isn't available, they have something that can calm them down and that can help them find the kind of tranquility again. And that's what we want to achieve with Kibo as well. That when you start freaking out about your career, you can cure the symptoms with apps like Headspace and Calm and the likes, but the actual cure of the actual core of it, of not knowing what to do, you can't really do anything about it unless you talk to people or unless you do things, and that's what we want to achieve with Kibo, that there is something for that. Now in terms of what I see as an end goal, so first of all, obviously what I just said, that is the mission that we have. Optimally, I would like to make it with Kibo, and at some point, hand over the management of the company to someone else, in order to have certain financial resources that I want and need to be able to invest into other companies. So I am very, very passionate about a lot of different sectors, including biotech, especially also about ocean discovery, medicine itself. So there's a lot of different sectors that I'm very, very interested in, which I could never get as involved if I just simply worked as an employee in different stages, So I think becoming an angel investor, and an angel investor who is actively involved with a lot of different companies in sectors that I'm passionate about, and being able to make a change in those, I think that's my ultimate goal.
Yeah, well, that's a very honorous goal, if I might say.
Thank you.
No, but yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure having you on this podcast. I think that a lot of people, including me, I hope you all can draw some value out of this conversation and your experience, Ronan. And that's what this is all about, right? This podcast, getting people like you on here and sharing everything you've been through, so people who also want to go along that path know what to expect, have a little bit more insight. Before we wrap things up, though, I want to kind of give you this opportunity to talk to the audience one last time. Let them know, what's going on with Kibo, how to contact you, and any last advices that you just want to get off your chest and put it out there.
First of all, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, I think about Kibo, in the next couple of months, we are going to make enormous strides, I hope at least. And we really want to get as much feedback from you guys as possible, because what we really put a lot of value into is that we're not building for universities, but we are building for you. We are building for the students. And in that sense, we need to know what problems are you facing? What difficulties do you have? What what parts of our solution are the most valuable to you, and why? So I think providing as much feedback as possible and voicing your opinions, they will always be heard. All of the founders and our employees are very open. You can message us anytime on LinkedIn and our emails, and we will respond. Sometimes it'll take a bit longer because we have a lot of mails stacking up, but we will always respond. And we are always happy to sit down with you and talk. And yeah, I think just getting your continuous support and helping us along in the journey. That would be super appreciated, and we're looking forward to it.
All right, there you have it. I'll definitely put all the links of LinkedIn and your website down in the description below. Ronan, I hope you have a wonderful day. To all of you out there, thank you guys for tuning in again. We'll see each other in the next episode. Ronan, I hope we see each other around soon. Probably will. And until the next one, take care, everybody. And we're out.